Hey everyone, Matt here. Just wrapped up my conversation with Kristen Lilla. I'm so excited for all of you to listen to it. Kristen is truly one of not only the greatest humans that I know, but just also one of the I want to say most smartest, right? Most intelligent uh, people that I've had the pleasure of connecting with. So I cannot wait for all of you to hear this episode. We talk about everything related to sex education, her two pop up books that she's created, and why age appropriate conversations need to happen very early. So excited for all of you to hear this and enjoy. Kristen Lilla, welcome to Sex Here and Now. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you're not officially my first guest. You're my second guest, but what do they say? Second is the best. So, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, before I tell our lovely listeners how we met, do you mind doing like an official introduction of yourself?
Oh, sure. Hi, I'm Kristen Lilla. I am physically located in Nebraska. I have a private practice and I'm licensed in 5 states. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and then I have a couple of certifications with AASECT, the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. I'm a certified therapist, a certified educator, and a certified supervisor for both.
Hmm.
Um, Let's see. Yeah, I mostly focus on private practice, but I also do sex education and write some books and
Yeah.
hop around when I can.
Kristen's the HBIC, everyone. Kristen, Kristen is awesome. So, um, if, how do I actually explain this? Like the moment Kristen came into my life in such a, um, God, how would you describe it? Just such like an upheaval of of my professional life in some ways. I was leaving a very toxic supervisor. That's the best way I'm going to put it. And I think my friend Erin, who I had met at a training,
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I don't know if you did a lot of supervision with
Not a
Erin.
lot, but
Yeah.
a little bit. I remember. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, Aaron was like, okay, if you need somebody, reach out to Kristen. She's awesome. And I was like, okay. And I remember sending you this email and we like hopped on this phone call. And I think I was just like, I don't know how to explain my situation to you because it was that weird,
Because it was so messed up.
yeah. And it was that weird balance of, I don't really know how much of an impact this my previous supervisor had in the AASECT world. Like, does Kristen know her?
Sure.
Am I about to just like talk shit on this person? And Kristen's going to be like, oh, well, I think she's amazing. And listeners, Kristen responded so well and was just such a professional. I don't know if I ever told you this, but it was just like, I remember you responding like, listen, like, uh, let's just work on this and I will like you sort of just trusted me implicitly in some way. And but you were so neutral to it. You were just like, okay, well, I don't really need to hear her side of the story, but I'm gonna reach out to her and see and all of this. And anyways, we just sort of flew from there. And Kristen
I don't think
truly
I did reach out to her. And
I
also, I'm your
you
second
did reach out
supervisor,
to
so I
her.
guess second officially is best. Did I? Or
You
did she
did
reach out to
because
me?
remember we
Did I?
needed or she reached out to
Oh, we
you
wanted the
because
hours.
we
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
the
yeah.
hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I've known Kristen now since 2019, I think, and it's just been I Kristen doesn't know this, but she's sort of like a mentor to me. She's like this she's just so well versed in all areas of AASECT and sex therapy, and you're gonna hear about that today and just how awesome she is. So
It's very
with that,
nice.
I should say if you're watching
And
this
now
on
we're friends.
I know, I was gonna say, and now we're friends, and that's awesome because we get to see each other now a couple times, but like I'm in Ohio, Kristen's in
Yeah,
Nebraska,
not enough.
so you know, we we're actually going to see each other later this year at a conference and hang out. So that will be great. But yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, everyone, Kristen has a phenomenal office. You just moved like not like when did you move?
Yeah, it's been like 3.5 years.
Oh, no, I thought you were moving. Wait, what am I thinking about? It's in
I don't
three and a
know.
half years.
Yeah, in this house.
Wait, the house I visited?
No.
No.
You
Wow.
visited it? No, yeah, no. I
Okay.
moved from that house about 3.5 years ago.
Oh my God, I
Yeah,
thought it was like a year ago.
no.
Okay. Well, that's
That was the
fun.
first time Matt and I met in person was about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
No, it's been a hot minute.
Well,
Well,
anyways,
since
you have a phenomenal office. So,
thanks.
um,
It's my door.
mhm, it's very cool. I love it. Well, I thought what we would do today, Kristen, as she stated, certified sex therapist and supervisor, certified sex educator and supervisor, wears so many hats. But one of my favorite things about Kristen are the books that she has written and collaborated with phenomenal people on. I have recommended several of your books to so many friends and clients and whatnot, but I think the two, I mean, they're all great. We'll touch on all of them,
Right.
but
Yeah, but I get it.
Vaginas and Periods 101 and Penises 101. And just tell me about those. Like how did those come up? Like what was the whole goal with that and how has it been?
I'll try not to tangent too much. So that's a walk down memory lane.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was working with Christian Hager, and we at Girls Inc.
Mm-hmm.
So we both are in private practice, and we both were working at Girls Inc. If you're not familiar with it, they've got affiliates throughout the country and empowering girls to be strong, smart, bold. Super cool mission. And I got to do a lot of sex education stuff. They're not federally funded, so I really was able to do like whatever I wanted for sex ed, which was so
Mm,
cool. Um, so we did a little bit, we did mostly stuff with the teens, but it was ages 5 to 18 and did a little bit here and there with all of them. And for anyone questioning that, right? Like sex education starts with like emotions and, consent. Can I have that toy, right?
mm-hmm.
Boundaries. So, all the way up to the other stuff. So obviously the conversation looks a lot different with teenagers, but
Yeah, and I feel
we
like people, not to cut you off, Kristen, but I feel
no
like
go.
that's a huge piece that I think people miss a lot with sex education is it's not just like penises and vulvas
It's
and
just not.
penetrative sex and condoms. And it's like that stuff's important later on, but it is everything you just talked about, like emotions and consent and all of that.
Mhm. And so one of our favorite lessons was um probably around like the fourth or fifth graders, and we would take a bunch of jars and we're learning basically like what is a period and
Mm,
trying to have that conversation, obviously depending on person's age and stuff. Some of our kids had already started their menstrual cycles, but
mm,
most of them hadn't, right? I mean, trying to have that conversation before it happens. And so we
hmm
would bring out a bunch of jars and put different brands of tampons in, and then we put in like a menstrual cup, and you put in a sea sponge, and just to kind of get an idea of like what all these things do in like the hot water.
mm,
Acknowledging hot water, bloodstream is not exactly the same. But if you let them sit there, even for like 5 minutes, you can see some of the tampons, like the white cotton floating in the water, and some of them would just expand, and you really can't tell the difference in quality though when you start looking at that. And it's like, when you pull some of those out, depending on how they expand, it can cause like little tiny ulcerations in the vaginal walls. And
yeah.
I don't know that we explained that part, but anyway, so we would do like this lesson. It was like a fun science experiment, and they could walk around and look at the jars, and, so we talk about, what a menstrual cycle is and just different product options, da da da. So then we got this book from somebody, and she wanted us to buy a whole bunch of her books. And it kept referring to periods as oops. And you needed an oops pack in your backpack in case you oops started your period.
And what year
And
was this?
oh,
I
probably
mean,
like 2016 or
I was going to say
17.
definitely after 2010.
Oh, yeah. I know. I'm
Mhm.
like, God, I can't believe it's been almost like that long too. But it was super shaming, right? And it was like, and you really should take a
Oops.
bath when you have your cycle. And it was like, why can't we get to a point where it's like, I got my period, I need to go to my backpack and get a pad or a tampon, not,
Yeah.
I need to go get my oops pad.
I need to go
Anyway,
get my oopsie pad.
oops. I am pro carrying an extra, whatever. I used to do that in high school. I had extra pair of underwear and stuff in the front of my back just in case. So I guess,
Yeah.
hey, this is before period apps, okay?
Yeah.
Um,
I
I don't know.
remember I remember not gonna use any specific names, although I literally think they wouldn't mind, but like growing up Catholic, going to a Catholic grade school
Mhm.
and in like seventh and eighth grade, just like my poor friends, my vulva owner friends, just like having their period and like bleeding through their skirts and their underwear and whatnot and having to like
Yep.
do like cover up and all this stuff. And I remember back then being like, um, I remember even back then having the thought of like what's happening? Like why is like
Mm,
how do we not have like resources potentially for this? And then, it was like a Catholic school and maybe lack of
sure.
education. I mean, this was like 2002, but not even, yeah. So
Yeah, but
just,
it turns out even Catholics get a menstrual cycle,
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
right? I mean,
Fun fact.
yeah, fun fact.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the book was just super shame based, and so the woman was like, could not believe we didn't want to buy like tons and tons of copies for the girls. And anyway, so Christian and I were like, we should just write our own book because a lot of there are some wonderful books out there, but a lot of them are very long, right?
Okay.
And I
Hmm.
don't know a lot of 10-year-olds. They're like, I totally want to read a 130-page book on like acne and BO and menstrual cycles. And so we were like, how do we just write something that's like short, sweet, and to the point? And so anyway, this idea kind of came up and we again cutting through some of this, but like we pitched it at a national sex ed conference. We
Mm,
got a small grant. Um, it wasn't and then half the grant like kind of fell apart that like wasn't fulfilled, but it got the
mm,
ball rolling on our end. And again, jumping ahead a couple more years, we reached out on Instagram. We found an artist. We were very, very lucky that someone
mm.
was like, "Sure, I'll work with you, even though you have no money, and you'll pay me hopefully later someday," which we did. But it
Good.
was definitely like a leap of faith on their end. They had way more of a following than we didn't have anything, and so
Yeah.
um, and then we found these amazing people, like, right, who makes pop-up books? So we found these amazing people in England. And anyway, it all just slowly but surely kind of came together and we
Mm.
wrote a vagina pop-up book. And so there's a pop-up vulva, which is just the
Yes.
cute little thing. And really the book is short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah.
Do you want me to grab a
Well, I was just about to say, I was like, if I was recording in my office in
there
my
we go.
building, I would have had it to pull out. But
There we go.
yeah,
Oh, you
look
can
at
hear the book
if,
creaking. My goodness, it's never been opened. So,
if
um,
people can see that if they're watching it, but listeners,
yeah.
there's just this beautiful vulva that pops out of the book to help actually, I mean, right there, just help people understand the difference between a vagina and a vulva. So,
And yeah, and that's the key. And then the
mhm,
book just goes through again, it's not very long. It talks through like why you get a menstrual cycle and then
mhm,
it talks about ovulation and then it goes through just different options for menstrual products. And then there's
mhm,
resources at the end and we call it a day.
mhm,
We thought we wrote that book for those fourth and fifth graders though.
mm,
And you've read the book. We didn't, right? The
right.
feedback has very much been like, my 3-year-old loved this. My
Yeah.
6-year-old thought this was great. My
Hmm.
8-year-old, totally, we had this in-depth conversation after we read the book, and they feel totally prepared now for their cycle.
Hmm.
My 4-year-old loves, the pop-up.
Yeah.
It turns out it was a book for much, much younger kids, which I think is good because there's a lot less sex education resources for littles.
Sure. I'm trying to think of like, I mean, you know way more than I do, but like I think of books that I like, Sex is a Funny Word and whatnot. But
Love
that
that
was,
book.
yeah, but that was, why do I feel like it was written
Sex
like
is a funny word is more like 10 to 12 year
10
olds.
to 12? Okay. Yeah, yeah,
He wrote another Corey Silverberg wrote another book, What Makes a Baby.
yeah.
That one's for again like
Mm,
your 3 to 6-year
okay.
olds.
Yeah.
That's
I've
great.
I've texted you before, but I know my friends, Jim's friends, they will like I sent you screenshots of what they'll say. Like they reach out and they're like, "Thank you for posting about this book. I just got it, and I got the penises, which we'll get to, and my daughter like loved walking through it." And I'm like, "Yes, this is perfect." And I think too, this book is also digestible, both of these books for, you know, like they're literally made like the parents have to purchase it, and those parents then have to have an open mind to sex education, right? Which is
Yeah. Yeah,
literally half the battle in it of
it
itself.
is.
Is like I gotta and you these books just make them it's so digestible for the parents who may be afraid of like, oh my God, I'm gonna show genitalia, right?
Yeah.
That's like, oh, this is just anatomy. This is just our bodies,
It's
and
just anatomy.
that's it.
One of the best pages, like we've gotten so much positive feedback on, is the vulva diversity page, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
that, right? Everybody's vulva looks
Mm-hmm.
different, just like our noses. And
Mm.
I adults too have reached out of like, I wish I had seen that book when I was young.
Mm.
Same myself. I wish I
Yeah.
had seen that, right? Because everybody thinks, which is wild. Everybody, not everybody, lots of vulva owners think there's something wrong with my vulva. It's shaped funny. It looks weird, even
Mm-hmm.
though we've never seen anybody else's, yet somehow mine's the one that looks weird. And so, what if we empowered young people to know that
Yeah.
like they do all different and yours is normal, and knowing that from
Mm.
just like a very young age, instead of again that shame and that secrecy and just having
Yeah.
that dialogues.
And you put that like
I think,
mirror or reflective surface in the book too,
yeah,
which is like, take a look at your vulva.
or
Just
don't, but yeah,
or don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
just
yeah.
for whatever, just permission, yeah, or don't. I think one of the coolest things too, right? My kiddo's 5 now, and this is, we've had this on our shelf then for, I guess, his whole life, and
Mm-hmm.
it just sits on the shelf, and so, for a while, like when he was 2, especially, he'd pull it out, and we'd flip through the pages and read it, and
Mm.
then we'd pull out like, whatever, like, I'm trying to think. A good night moon, right? Something
Yeah, yeah,
like that.
yeah.
We'd pull out something else right after that. And just, it was just, they're just on our shelves as part of normal rotation. It's not
Yeah.
like a secret book or something. And,
Mm-hmm.
I really encourage parents to do that, that it's just a book. And so if we want to pull it out and your kiddo's interested, we read it. And if not, like it's accessible.
Yeah. Which goes into like the whole if we're just going to be jumping all over the place here,
That's fine,
right?
jump.
Like right when you said that, I go to like I there are so many people who are like, it needs to be age appropriate, like age appropriate, age appropriate, age appropriate, age appropriate. And on the one hand, it's like, absolutely, right? I'm not going to be talking
Yeah.
to a 5-year-old about anal sex, right?
No.
But,
No.
but this age appropriate, a lot of people think starts post
Mm.
puberty, right?
Well, and
And it's
it's usually,
like,
that's too late.
it's too late, right?
Why are
Because, yeah,
I don't need to know about my period if I already have my period, right? I mean, I
right.
might, maybe I don't understand why I have it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it is too late. And so
Yeah.
this goes part of the age of people do reach out though. What is this book age appropriate? Well, who's it age appropriate for? And
Mm-hmm.
I usually respond with, it depends what kind of conversations you're having with your kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's again, I mean, we've had plenty of people that are reading it to their 3 to 8 year olds. I mean, I would
Mm-hmm.
say that is the target, but that's totally your prerogative what conversations you're having. And so there's no like rule or guide. I mean, actually there are. You can follow SICA's guidelines to kind of see what is recommended, but it does depend what conversations you're
Yeah.
having. And so for us, obviously, this is what I do for a living, that, it is just part of an everyday conversation. But for somebody picking it up for the first time, if your kiddo hasn't started their cycle, or you have a person with a penis, right,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have a period, I mean, this is great for, pick it up for your 10-year-old. So
Yeah.
it's never too late to start those dialogues.
But what do you think about, we hear all the time in our training and our education, like use the appropriate terms for the anatomy, right? Like vulva, vagina, penis.
I'm
What do
very
you
pro
think about those conversations of like pee pee and nana or like what like all of that? Like how do you tend to approach that when you talk
I mean,
to
I think, yeah,
people?
I mean, it's not highly recommended. But if If you want to mix it up along, the cute name along with
Mhm.
the real name, again, your prerogative, you're the parent. But there's research that shows, right, that youth are more likely to be assaulted when they don't have that terminology
Mhm.
because we had a kid that was calling her vulva her pocketbook. And it does make it really hard when if something, God forbid, something happens and somebody goes in
Mhm.
to investigate, where did they touch you? Well, they touched my pocketbook. And so
Mhm.
you've got a whole different can of worms to kind of open. And
Mhm.
in addition, it also teaches, right? That's the shame-based thing. These are dirty words. These are
Yeah.
bad words. We don't say
Mhm.
these words. But they're not. You have a nose, you have an elbow, you have ears, you have a heart inside your body, you've got knees, and you've got a penis. I mean, it's just a word, and I think it empowers both the parent and the kids to just say the word, right?
Yeah. Have you
You can
noticed a shift in like generational stuff with like our generation, millennial generation, like those
some.
parents becoming a little bit more comfortable versus like older generations, whatnot, or is it still like
I mean, I
I
can't say
notice
for
like small
sure.
things, but I don't,
Yeah,
it's nothing like concrete.
I can't say for sure. I'm gonna say yes only because there's a lot more books out there for parents too about how to
Hmm.
talk to your kids about these things. And so that means there's a market for it. Right? And
Yeah.
I want to say yes that there's a shift in that regard.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think I talk when it's also like lived experience too, just being around more people my age, and talking to them, the conversations I'm having feel different than conversations that I've had in the past. So that's also what I bring to the conversation and the people I surround myself with and whatnot. But even talking to clients, so we'll see if that continues. But
Yeah, hopefully.
and then so that came out, and then the most recent one, Penises 101, like
Yeah, that
that
came
was
out
a
like 2 months
journey.
ago.
Yeah, that
It
was a
was a
journey in of
journey.
itself.
And some of the journey is shock. Pop-up books are very expensive to make. I mean, that
Yes.
is the gist of that journey.
Mm,
Anyway, yeah, so that just came out at the end of 2025, but we felt like this book was important, right? Because women in society are not necessarily treated as well because of misogyny and patriarchy. So we felt like this book was should come first. I think in addition, right? Christian and I both have vulvas. And then,
yeah.
a few years later, Christian had twins that both have penises and I had my own. And so I
Hmm.
think that was like, okay, we need a book for these kids. And so many people kept asking, when's the penis book coming? When's it coming? When's it coming? Well, anyway, so it took a long time for the
Hmm.
follow-up, but it did just come out. And we tried to mimic the vagina book in the same way that it's kind of short, sweet, and to the point, and that it's got the pop-up penis, which
Hmm.
I know not everybody will be able to see this, but it was like, how are you going to do that? Is it just going like bam out of the page? And we were like, oh, the papersmiths in England did such a
Oh, it's so great.
beautiful job of
Yeah.
like how to have the penis pop up, but like in a very tactful way,
Yeah.
right? Without it being just like giant erect penis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Let me grab it because I think just in case you don't, I mean, you have the book, so hopefully you do know this, but
Oh, yeah.
ah, you
Yeah.
know that you can play with it, right?
I have not lifted it.
So again, in a very like
Oh,
tactful way,
that's
the folks were like, how do we make right? It was like a joke of, stereotype of like, well, boys do like to touch, well, people like to touch their penis. That's fine.
yeah. Yeah.
But it was like boys like to touch their penis and they're gonna want to play with this. And so,
Hmm.
again, if you can't see the penis is like down, but you can lift it up basically to show how it would look if there was blood flow and
Yeah.
erection. And no, the
Yes.
words aren't on this page, so you don't have to, again, have that dialogue if you don't want to.
Right.
Although,
Right.
other pages do talk about blood flow. But
They
anyway, it's
do.
meant to be played with. It's a pop-up book. It's supposed to be fun.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. And that book specifically too, as a penis owner myself, when I was going through it, just the way that it was extremely inclusive, which I know was a huge thing for you
Yes.
and Christian with the vulva book and with the penis book. Can you talk a little bit more about like
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Thank you.
piece?
Yes, I mean, both of the books, neither of them use gender or pronouns because we wanted it to be inclusive of like our trans kids or intersex kids, non-binary kids. The cover of the vagina pop-up book is actually the colors of the transgender flag, and then
Mm.
the colors of the penis pop-up book are the colors of the non-binary flag. So those are really just little nuggets
Mm.
that lots of people probably have no idea. But again,
I
did,
caught
did you?
the vulva, but not the I did not catch the penises. I was like, I like these colors, and yeah, everything has
There
a
you go.
meaning.
And well, and they think again, it's totally fine. They can just be pretty bright colored books, but for some kids that really matters, right? That
Yeah.
representation. And so yeah, I mean, we wanted to just be inclusive at that. And I think it also opens the door too, because right, many of us, for me at least, right, back in the fourth grade, and I know they still do this, they separate the boys and the girls and and you
Mm-hmm.
each had different conversations. And it's okay, you should buy both of these books and have these conversations regardless. And
Yeah.
so it's also a way maybe to have that inclusivity that like we're not leaving anybody. It's just a book. They're just body
Yeah.
parts, right?
Exactly. And as again something that shows up a lot with penis owners too, I never saw an
Mm.
uncircumcised penis for years, right?
Yes,
Like
that was very
even
important.
that
Yeah.
is so important, right? Because
Yeah.
like people who have uncircumcised penises tend to be bullied and picked on, and especially in the United States, it tends to be way less common. And so
Yes.
having that inclusivity of even that, like penises look like this and they look like this, like there's those pages where it's just like showing all the different kinds. It's like, yes, like little penis owners need to see this so that it's a place for them to feel seen, right? Because that,
Absolutely.
unless you're going to a locker room, which locker rooms tend to have older adults that have
It's true.
very different penis structures, right, than a
Yes.
young penis. So a
Yes.
young penis
Well,
owner.
they're
So
based on, being 3 feet tall versus 6 feet tall. Yes, there's some
exactly.
differences. No, that was really important. I think, Christian and I made, different choices for our kids in that regard. And so it was really
Hmm.
important to be inclusive, but also tactful about how we had that conversation because
Exactly.
we didn't want our kids to read it and be like, wait, what about me? Um,
Hmm. Totally.
and this just a full circle back to like, is this age appropriate? There is stuff in here about erections. Who needs to talk to a 4-year-old about erections? Well, I'm here to tell you, my 4-year-old gets erections,
Yeah.
and so and giving him the proper language, because
Yeah.
usually it was like my penis is hard, and then I get to go, yeah, buddy, right, that's called an erection. There's blood flowing your penis right now, you know.
Hmm.
Wait, I want it to go away. It will. Just leave it alone for a few minutes and it'll go
Yeah.
away, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to have that dialogue, I think something else that we wrote in both of these, and it's like one sentence, but it was about pleasure.
Yeah.
And we forget to talk about that too. And so that's something else, when
Hmm.
he's touching oh yeah, does that feel good? Okay. And I redirect, you've got to go up to, it's totally fine. I'm so glad that that feels good.
Hmm.
That's private time. You got to go up to your room or in the bathtub if that's something you want to
Hmm.
do. But being able to acknowledge for both of them that, the glands of the penis and the shaft can be very sensitive and
Yeah.
pleasurable, and the clitoris can be very sensitive and
Mm.
pleasurable. And then we acknowledge that, and that some people don't like it touched at all. And some of that I
Yeah.
think is just about bodily autonomy. But perhaps we're also setting the stage for literally 20 years down the road, someone who's like, I'm asexual and I actually hate that. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Right. Which is
Again, tiny nuggets.
the beauty of the book, right? And I think too with that, I talk a lot about like like sexual versus sexualizing, right? Like humans, we
Yeah.
are sexual, right? And so
Yes. Human
our
sexuality. Yeah.
yeah, our bodies are going to respond to stuff. Just because I get an erection, like that's just part of being human, part of me
Exactly.
having this penis. And so you're not sexualizing this at all. And
No,
that is
definitely
like
not.
that's the crap that we have to deal with is people being like, oh, like, what do you mean there's an erection or there's like a pop-up that goes, it's like, yeah, because we need to know these things,
Right. And
right?
it's just
As
blood flow.
humans,
That's all
it's
it is.
just blood
Yeah.
flow, right? We're not the ones trying to do that. We're the ones trying to help educate and teach.
Yeah. And neither of these books talk about what sex is, but,
Hmm.
you know, my child has that. Where do babies come from? And I,
Hmm.
again, kind of how do you explain it to a 5-year-old? But I've been able to go, hey, do you remember this book? Do you remember this book? Do you remember these parts that happen? You can use them to have additional dialogues. And that's what we've done rather than um again, just not answering the question or
Right.
yeah.
Um, Kristen, I feel like I could talk to you all day about all this stuff, but I wanted to wrap up a little bit just talking about stuff that I guess, stuff that you're seeing these days in the world of like sex education or even with like sex therapy or with your clients, or what are you feeling super, if it's passionate, right? About like what is jumping out to you, in the world these days that you're like, this feels so important
I
for
don't
me
know.
in this stage. I know
Yeah, my
it's
brain went to like four places. I mean, the world, I'm like, especially in our country, it seems like there's a
hmm
lot of how do we protect our trans youth? So I think
hmm
that's part of a dialogue on a bigger scale, but also for our clients who do have trans kids. Um, on a much smaller scale, I'm like, I feel like a lot more of my parents have asked for sex ed resources over the years, and I love that.
yeah,
I
same.
love that they're coming in for whatever, right? They're working on communication or their own intimacy, and you get to know people, and so they talk about their kids, and
hmm
da 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 da, and they just started their period, or I don't know how to. Anyway, and being able to just send them a bunch of resources, which I love being able to do, and kind of having that tangential, right? Like dialogue
yeah.
with them just to provide that support because it's not why they're coming to therapy,
Mm-mm.
but you might as well utilize me as the resource. I'm sitting right here. So
Yeah,
I
that's one of
really
my favorite things with being in our field is people coming to me, clients or non-clients, and just being like, "Do you have this? Like, do you have any resources on like how to talk to my kids about their body?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do. Thank you for
yes, I
asking."
do. Yeah. And I obviously send more than just my own resources, but I mean, there's some
Yeah, I
really
send
wonderful
your
stuff out there
resources.
too. I only send my own resource. No,
Oh
yeah, there's
God.
some really wonderful things out there. Again, like Corey Silverberg is great.
Yeah.
Melissa Pinter Carnegie is so fantastic. Sex
Mhm.
Positive Families. I'll do a
Yeah,
plug for Melissa. Yeah,
sexpositivefamilies.org.
has so many
Phenomenal.
resources
Yeah.
that are listed. Um,
Love it. I
yeah,
will
there's some
link
great
a
stuff.
lot of, I'll link Sex Positive Families. I'm going to link all of your stuff to in the show notes of this episode. Um, but Kristen, I guess like last thing, where can these people follow you if they want to
Oh,
like
sure.
connect with you at all?
So many places. Kristen.Lilla on Instagram.
hmm
Or Sex Ed Talk LLC if you want to find me for just the pop-up book stuff. I post a lot less there because we always get flagged. Uh,
Oh
actually, you know
yeah,
what? We changed it again, I think. I think now it's that dot pop up dot book
it is.
because we keep getting flagged. It's very frustrating.
Could do
So
a whole
anyway,
episode on the
yeah,
Instagram. hmm
it's very frustrating. Yeah, so those are two easy places. And
Cool.
then my website, kristenlilla.com or sexedtalk.com for all the books.
Hey, well, like I said, dear listeners, I will put all of this in the show notes. I would love to keep Kristen forever and ever, but we both have busy days ahead. So I will definitely have Kristen back. But thank you so much for coming.
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited to see you in a couple months and,
I know. Good to
chat
hear from
more
you.
and gossip and all that good stuff.
Sounds
So
good.
thanks again.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Sex Here and Now is written and recorded by me, Matt Lockman. For more resources, education, or support, you can find me on all social platforms at Cleveland Sex Therapy. Thanks for being here, and as always, stay curious.